Okay, so if you've got a dryer and it powers on, so my dryer would power on, but it wouldn't basically fire up and start drying the clothes. It wouldn't do anything. You hit the button and mine would beep a few times, make kind of a weird beep. But it also had a drum light, little light that was on here. And what that means is that the light in here is on. And what happens is when you open and close the door like this, there's a little limit switch right here that when you close this door, that basically turns the light off, and then also signals to this that the door is closed so that you can't just turn your dryer on with the door open. So if that little switch breaks, it won't allow everything to kick back on. So really quickly, what I'm going to do is, because I purchased this off Amazon, this was compatible with a ton of different models of brands and models. So if this works, hopefully I will I'll link it up. But I'm going to grab the camera real quick. I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about this little switch and kind of where it's located. And then I'll show you exactly how we're going to change it out. Okay, so let's go real quickly and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So right up in here is where this switch is at. It's probably a little bit hard to see because mine is actually broke off, but you can hear it. But it's got like a little flipper there basically that should be there, and that little flipper just broke off. And basically, so in a pinch, you could technically probably kind of push something up in there to make it work. I wouldn't recommend it, but basically this little switch, if this thing fits, it's like, I don't know, $7. So it's definitely a very cheap fix. Okay, so while we were shooting this just now, my son, who's behind the camera, walked up and said, I just found this on the floor. So this is actually the little flipper to it, in case you're wondering. So here's the switch. Here's the switch that is currently working. And then this is the little flipper off of mine that's apparently broke that was laying on the floor. Okay, so now what we want to do is you have to basically get access to this basis from the top side. Now, for some reason, I thought that this just would simply, you could lift this up. And so I just kind of gently pried on it and pried it up. But at least mine, so I was able to pry it up. But mine has basically little fins on each side and they're pointed this way. So when I did that, I kind of bent those fins. So technically, I'm sure that I probably have to unscrew a couple of things from the back and then have pulled it off kind of that way, and then it would have kind of worked its way loose without bending those fins. I'll deal with that later, but just so you know, pretty much the best way to get access to this is going to be through the top. So just don't do what I did on that. Anyway, so now we're going to change this out, and probably also, had I done this that way, this would probably be a little bit easier to change out because this thing will be completely removed. But sometimes I just want to get it done. I don't know if anybody else is that way. Now, that little switch on mine just has 2 screws going up right through here that are holding it in place. And all you gotta do is unscrew them and don't lose the screws. Okay. By the way, make sure you unplug your dryer before you do any of this. So this is the old one, and it's just got a little connector here. It looks like that will disconnect from that. That looks pretty identical. So here's to hoping this all works. The only trick that I see is going to be getting this line back up. And there. That's kind of how that goes. If you can see that very good. Again, it's just 2 screws straight up through there, and you're just going to hold it in place on the back side. That's pretty tight. So that should be how it should work. Okay, so just to show you what I was talking about on this top. So it's got kind of a weird looking little, kind of a hook thing. So what happens is this has to come forward and then pull back and hook. This top comes back through and hooks over it this way. So to do that on the back side here, I just had to take a bunch of screws loose. That seems like a big deal, but it really wasn't that big a deal. So just take that, and then now this will actually slide back in, just drop into place. I had to kind of bend it back, but just FYI. So all you got to do, put a few of those in. And if you got an electric screwdriver that you can set the clutch really low, that's a huge bonus. It just saves from tearing up anything when you're running any kind of delicate stuff. And that makes it really simple. Also, these little tips and bits here, these are a magnetic tip and they're reversible. So on one side, it's 5/16, and on the other, it's 1/4, and they clip back on. So these are extremely, extremely handy as well. Okay. So that's pretty much it. All you got to do, change out that switch. Hopefully that will save you a $150 service call with a $7 part and 15 minutes of your time.